You are listening to Practical and Woo by Mindset and Manifest. My name is Eden, and I invite you to embark on a journey with me to explore the practical and spiritual edges of the unknown for the purpose of allowing you to embody and empower yourself uniquely as you are, and to intentionally create and live a life of freedom and fulfillment. Each week, I am going to discuss topics such as energetics, reality creation, manifestation, astrology, tarot, and more to help empower you to live beyond perceived limitations and to practically design your life so it feels like absolute magic every step of the way. Let's dive in. Well, hello, brilliant soul. This morning, I was running around like a chicken without its head, tending to seemingly one thing after the other, springing up like whack-a-moles. A thought crossed my mind that said something like, wow, isn't today delightfully stoogey? And this experience and ability to laugh at myself and the hurricane of some things that streamed into my life to deal with, which is a learned skill, by the way. This flip book of moment-by-moment scenes led me to what I want to talk to you about today. I've actually been thinking a lot about the language we use when life becomes difficult and our human tendency to gather uncomfortable experiences into one oversized category and then slap a name on it, which is stress. But what if there's a massive difference between pressure and stress? While both of these concepts can feel remarkably similar in their adrenaline-rushing, heart-beating level of uncertainty that somehow demands something from you, it's pressure that's responsible for building and strengthening you, and it's stress that tears you down. And I'm realizing that the importance of distinguishing and defining these two things, stress versus pressure, allows us to embrace experiences as our greatest teachers. I know that this podcast is all about creating and living your most fulfilling dream life so that it can feel like magic in the making. And it still is about that. But what if part of the transferable skills that become important for us to cultivate include learning how to wear a lens of levity in the face of things that feel the most uncomfortable? And the reason that this is an important transferable skill is that it allows us to define our capability and to create something by design. Pressure is one of nature's favorite architects. A seed buried beneath the earth is surrounded by pressure long before it ever becomes a flower. The darkness of the soil isn't evidence that the seed has been forgotten, and the weight of the earth isn't a punishment. It's the resistance that offers the contact for the seed to push against and rise towards the sprouting surface. A diamond spends millions of years under immense geological pressure before anyone would ever call it precious. Even our own bones respond to pressure. Without resistance, they weaken, and with it, they become denser and more resilient. I'm getting another image in my mind. I want to invite you to imagine that you're standing inside a blacksmith's workshop. The air is thickened with heat, and every surface somehow carries the memory of thousands of strikes. In the center of the room, there's a fire burning hot enough to soften steel, well over 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. A straight rod of metal is placed into the flames, and from the outside, it looks unchanged. But inside, its structure is starting to become soft and malleable. Only then does the blacksmith remove it from the fire. The steel is laid across an anvil, and the hammer falls again and again upon it. Each strike deliberate, every blow landing with a remarkable precision, moving the metal one fraction closer to its intended purpose. Then, before the steel becomes too rigid to shape any further, it's returned to the fire once more. Heat, hammer, heat, hammer. The process repeats over and over again, with none of these single moments being what creates the finished piece. It's the relationship between the fire and the pressure that transforms an ordinary piece of steel into something capable of carrying tremendous force. The glowing metal is then plunged into water, steam erupting, a violent hiss filling the room. Without this final tempering, the metal, while beautifully shaped, would remain brittle and likely to crack the first time it was placed under real strain. What strikes me is that at no point in this process is the blacksmith trying to ruin the steel under the extreme heat and pressure of the hammer. Every stage that appears harsh serves a purpose. The fire is what makes the change possible. The hammer gives it direction, and the cooling strengthens what has already been formed. In our own lives, there are seasons when life feels like fire and seasons that feel like the hammer. And then there are quieter seasons that feel almost shocking in their stillness, where everything we've lived through begins settling into who we've become. It's tempting to believe that one difficult season means something's gone completely wrong, but what if it simply means that the next step is creating something that can endure, that can stand the test of time? Are you, too, forged in fire? Pressure is what requires us to become someone capable of carrying what would have crushed us only yesterday. And stress is what happens when our relationship with pressure becomes distorted. Pressure is objective, and stress is up for interpretation. Where pressure acknowledges that something feels heavy, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, it's stress that writes it off as something that shouldn't be happening at all. Where pressure presents us with a reality to respond to, stress is what argues with it. Even in the most fulfilling dream life, we will find ourselves experiencing deadlines, difficult conversations, grief, uncertainty, responsibilities, new opportunities, changing identities, unexpected setbacks, and moments where we're asked to carry more than we've ever carried before. All of these experiences are simply life asking us to grow into the next version of ourselves. But it can be so easy for stress to enter the scene when we stop working with our reality and choose to fight against it instead. Stress comes when we replay the same conversation 50 times in our head, imagining all the things we should have said, or it comes when we catastrophize our futures that have not yet happened, and it probably will never be as bad as we make up in our minds. Stress happens when we compare ourselves to people whose journeys bear no resemblance to our own, or in the moments where we convince ourselves that because something feels uncomfortable, it must somehow mean it's all going wrong. Pressure only exists for a moment or two, but stress is what keeps us carrying it long after the pressure has passed. Cultivating resilience is something that happens in the face of pressure, not stress, and it means becoming someone who can remain open without becoming overwhelmed. And on the days you do feel overwhelmed, it means being someone who can hold their own hand through it along the way, one step at a time, learning to become a version of yourself who can bend without breaking. Are you forged in fire? Looking back across the landscape of time in your own life, I imagine there are chapters that you never would have chosen if given the choice, or seasons that felt impossibly heavy while you were living them. And yet, are you not wiser because of some of them? More discerning, more compassionate, more courageous, more honest? Not because the experiences themselves were good, but because you refused to allow them to be wasted. Pressure asks you to embrace your next stage of your journey, and stress convinces you that life is happening to you. Pressure builds capacity, and stress depletes it. Where pressure forges you, stress corrodes your resources. My wish for you is that you choose to become the kind of person who can recognize the heat of the forge when they're standing in it, trusting that the fire is one that alchemizes and invites you into the next stage of your becoming. And for me, perhaps that's why I found myself laughing this morning as I bounced from one unexpected thing to the next. If I'm being honest, I can reflect on a time not too long ago where I would have been torn apart by a morning such as this one, deeming it proof that everything was going wrong. I would have carried each moment with tension, urgency, and the quiet belief that only once everything settled down, then I could finally feel okay. Today, I caught myself smiling, and I disallowed myself to suffer at the hands of what truly were inconveniences at best. I felt pressure to tend to the moments, but I chose not to lean into the stress of it. As the circumstances of our lives continue to change, there will be new responsibilities that arrive, new opportunities that ask more of us, and new chapters that will stretch us beyond the edges of who we've been. The question has never been whether or not you'll encounter the fire, because you can bet your bottom dollar that you will. But are you going to spend your life believing that these experiences are designed to destroy you, or to be the places where your strength is made? I hope that the next time your life asks more of you than feels comfortable, you'll pause before calling it stress, and instead you'll discover whether what you're experiencing is designed to break you or to build you up. Until next time.